that try to convince you struggle too much, you can't be used of God. Let me tell you about a few men in the Bible who God used in spite of their failures, in spite of their blemishes, in spite of their flaws. Do you know Moses was probably one of the most frustrated pastors? Brother, you parted the Red Sea. Why do you got so much dysfunction in your church? You got to be doing something wrong. You got to understand, in the world, the Bible says that he had all wisdom. He was powerful with words. You see, it's easy to talk big when you're in the world, but when you come into the presence of something that is real. Moses told God when he called him to be a deliverer for his people, he said, I'm slow of speech. I can't speak. Already disqualifying himself. And he was trying to get somebody else to do what God called him to do. You're also looking at an individual that was terrified of crowds. I could not do one presentation before my class. Moses was the Bible talks about, this is going to be funny. But before I get into what the Bible talks about, I heard this funny thing that Billy Cole said. He said, you reproduce after your own kind. He said, my church is full of hillbillies. He said, why? Because I'm one. He said, you reproduce after your own kind. And then he said he had one pastor tell him, I got nothing but dingbats in my church. And Billy Cole told him, I'll tell you why. You reproduce after your own kind. And we say that Israel murmured, but Moses was the first one to murmur. God said, go tell Pharaoh, let my people go. He goes and tells him, and then Pharaoh brings some stricter rules upon the people. And then Moses goes to God complaining, you said you told me this, now look what's happening. You know, he got so frustrated with Israel that he even asked God at one point if it was necessary to take his life because he could not handle the pressure. He was a man that also had temper problems. He was quick to be angry. And look what the Bible says about Moses in Hebrews. And Moses verily was faithful in all his house. We're not talking about the same guy. Are you talking about the guy that murmured to God? And you're saying he was faithful in all of his house? Are you talking about the man that got angry sometimes? That had a temper sometimes? And you're saying that he was called faithful? You see, the Bible has an opinion of you that's different than the opinion that some of your family have about you and I. And you know, church, we ought to be careful with some of our family members in this church where they might show flaws at home, and God forbid we go around telling people about their flaws. Because Moses was flawed beyond measure. But would you believe, from Israel's perspective, they saw a man that stood up to the most powerful figure in their day. They saw a man who parted the Red Sea. They saw a man with his staff turn the river into blood. They saw a man that was powerful, that was anointed, that walked in miracles, signs, and wonders. And oftentimes, from our perspective, church, we look at somebody and all we see is what God has done in their life. We see the abilities that God has given them. But if you get behind the closed doors of their home and in their prayer closet, their prayer sounds like this: God, I'm incapable of doing this. I'm not eloquent enough. I'm slow of speech. And God looks at us and He gives us the abilities. But He was just like Israel. But they only saw the powerful side of Him, but they didn't see the human side. Where in the privacy of his home talking to God, he was telling God, I can't do this. And there are people in this room, there's sometimes you get so frustrated with yourself, you even punish yourself at times in your mind because you say things like, God, I just can't do this. You are in the perfect place because now God says, now I can make my strength available to you. I can't come out of this addiction. Here comes the strength of God now. You want to talk about flaws? Consider a man like Jacob, who did one of the most deceitful things anybody could ever do. Deceived his blind father into believing that he was his brother. He took advantage of his father's handicap. He was a deceiver according to his family, according to the people around him. Yet he was a man that recognized the presence of God. The heavens opened up to him, and there was a ladder that descended from heaven with angels ascending and descending. This was a man that had, there's no way, Brother McKee, you could have visions. You're flawed. Brother Joe, you can't know the presence of God. You're too flawed. Jacob was considered a deceiver, yet the heavens came to visit him. And Jacob named that place Bethel because he recognized this is where the presence of God dwells. And he named that place Bethel, the house of God. We have deceivers that can recognize the presence of God more than some of us can. Because recognizing the presence of God and even being used in the gifts of the Spirit doesn't have anything to do with tenure. It doesn't have to do with the amount of years that you have of experience under your belt. It has to do with whosoever will. Let him come and take what God has made available to you and I. What about David? My God, I don't want to get into this, but I'll get into it. We have a hard time letting men be forgiven who've committed adultery in our churches. Yet we preach from an adulterous Psalms. We quote his Psalms. The adulterer David. We will preach a message from his Psalms. You have a hard time forgiving someone that's committed adultery in our church. I always say this. We always badmouth Trinitarians, yet 90% of the songs we sing were written by Trinitarians. Sometimes us oneness Pentecostals could sound and act like Israel. We're the only ones. We might have revelation of the name, but we don't have revelation of the person. revelation that there is one God? But do you have revelation of His substance, which is love? If there's anything that we need to be baptized with in the United Pentecostal Church, is a revelation of love, revelation of